up, YouTube fam? Today we are making some honey butter salmon and shrimp with a side of cheese grits. So the first thing you're going to do is thaw out your salmon, and then we're going to pat it dry. Not, you don't have to go too crazy, just enough to get a lot of that water and moisture out of it. Then the first thing we're going to add is black pepper. Next thing we're going to add is some adobo, which is all-purpose seasoning. Do the same thing and put it all over your salmon. Next we have some onion powder, and we're going to do the same thing and add it all over the salmon. Next thing I have is some Old Bay seasoning. I usually use a different kind of seasoning for my seafood, but I feel like Old Bay would just work perfect for this meal, so that's what we're going to run with. After you season the first side of the salmon, you're going to flip it over and add the same seasonings to the other side. Then we're going to move on to the pan and add some butter, and I have a fresh lemon, and we're going to squeeze some of that juice, not the whole thing, not even half of it, just some of it, and then you're going to mix it in with the butter. After you do that, we're going to start adding salmon. So I added 3 of them at a time into the pan and let them start to cook at least halfway. And then once it starts to cook halfway, then I'm going to get some honey. This is raw, unfiltered honey. They have different types in the store that you can find. So after you do that, we're going to drizzle it all on the salmon. Well, just on this one side first. Then after you drizzle it on that side, we're just going to flip it over so that honey can mix in with the butter and the lemon that we put in the pan. Then it's going to start turning golden brown. And we're going to add some of that juice from that pan on the top of it so we can let it all just drip all on the salmon. Then we're going to add a little piece of butter. Get back up there. Try to get away from me. Anyway, add that little piece of butter to that last piece. It keeps sliding away from me, but that's okay. We're going to get it back on track. So anyway, after we get the butter back on top, then we're going to cover it up for just a few minutes, just enough time for it to soften up. See how it starts softening up and it's easy to spread. And after we spread it a little bit on that side, we're going to go ahead and flip it again. That way the butter can add to that honey and a little bit of butter that we still had in that pan. Give it a good flip. It's starting to look golden brown, which is what we want, and that means that we're almost done. Add a little bit more of that juice to that side of it and let it cook just for a couple more minutes. So now that it has cooked for a few more minutes on that other side, it's pretty much done. So now we're going to take it out of the pan because I have more to cook in this pan, and we don't want it to start burning at the bottom with all the butter that we put in there. So we take them right out and set them to the side. Look how good that looks, nice and golden. That's that butter and that honey. Add a little bit more butter to your pan before you add some more salmon to it. So we got 3 more pieces there. Add it to the pan. So now that we have it starting to cook up in the butter, we're going to go back to the honey and drizzle that a little bit at the top of it. And basically the same thing we just did with the first 3 pieces, we're going to do with these 3 pieces. So now once we've got some honey on that side, we're going to go ahead and start flipping them over. So that way it can start cooking in with the butter. So we're going to make sure we're adding a little bit of juice to the top just so it doesn't start drying out at the top. And that way we can get the juice to go all in the crevices. So I was finished with those 3 pieces. I didn't feel like I needed to finish because you get the idea. This is the last piece of salmon that I added to the pan. Did the same thing with the honey and the butter, and now that's done. So now I had a few pieces of shrimp. They're already cleaned and peeled and deveined. We're going to add some Old Bay and a little bit of onion powder, and then some black pepper, and then some adobo, and give it a good mix. Basically the same seasonings we just used on the salmon. So now we're going to go back to that same pan. Make sure you get all the little pieces of salmon out of the bottom of the pan. That way it doesn't start burning. But we want to keep that same flavors in the bottom of the pan. So now I'm adding a little bit of butter to the pan while it's hot. And then after that, we're going to go ahead and dump the shrimp right on in. So now with that same half a lemon, I'm going to add some of that juice to the shrimp we have here. Make sure if you have seeds in it, make sure you're not cooking the seeds. Take the seeds out, mix it around in there, and then we're going to give them a flip. We're only going to let them cook for maybe 2 minutes, 1 to 2 minutes on each side, and flip them. That way we can cook both sides and get them out of there. Before I take these shrimp out, I'm going to move them around in that juice a little bit. That way the flavors can just get in the shrimp. And voila, it is done. You can start taking them out of the pan and setting them to the side with your salmon. Well, now that we have the salmon and shrimp done, you get a pot, and then you're going to bring about 4 cups of water to a boil, and then calm it down on low before you start adding these grits. Add the grits slowly to the pot and stir them as you are pouring it in. About a cup or so, add to the 4 cups of water. And you're going to want to keep mixing it and mixing it and mixing it. And you're going to turn the heat up just a little bit, about medium heat or a little less than medium heat. Add some butter to it and start mixing it around, because we want the grits to be smooth and we don't want to be chewing on little pieces of grits. So you have to keep stirring it. The only seasonings I'm adding to this is black pepper and salt. You never really see me use salt because I have high blood pressure problems, but for this we are using some salt and some butter and some black pepper. So use in moderation, use a little bit at a time. You can go back and add it throughout your time mixing it in. So you want to keep stirring and stirring it, and it's best to use a whisk. You use a whisk and it's going to come out better than just using a spoon. So as you see, I added more butter a little bit at a time. Keep mixing it. You're not going to see me put the salt and pepper back in there, but I did add more. So now we have some sharp cheddar cheese. Add as much as you want to your pot. So after you add your cheese to it, go ahead and start stirring it around. If you find that your grits are getting too thick where your arm feels like it's about to fall off, you can add a little bit more water if you want. Turn the heat down or up when you add the water and keep stirring. But you want, I did it, see, I added some water there. I didn't show you, but you can tell that it wasn't as thick. So there I am whisking and whisking. It's going to bubble up because I turned the heat up, but these grits are going to be so smooth because I am whisking away. If you don't whisk, you're going to be chewing on little pieces of grits. We don't want that. We don't want to chew on grits. We want smooth grits. So if your arm falls off to get these smooth grits, then that's just what's going to happen, okay? But it's okay. It'll be good when you're all finished. So after the grits are done, I added it to a bowl and added a little bit more of the shredded cheese on top. You got your shrimp, you got your salmon. You can mix it all together, eat it, together, put all pieces of it in your mouth at one time. And it is going to be so good. You're going to taste that honey, you're going to taste that butter, and you're going to taste the cheese, and it's just all going to melt in your mouth. Make sure you are whisking them grits. I cannot say it enough, because the grits are going to help this dish pop.